When my ex cheated on me, it felt like my entire world came crashing down. The betrayal was like a sucker punch to the gut, a slow realization that twisted into a bitter knot of anger and pain. I had trusted her, built a life with her, and all the while, she was carrying on an affair with someone else. That someone else was Mike. I'll never forget the day I caught them. The image of them together in our apartment burned into my mind like a brand. It wasn't a fleeting mistake, it was a full-blown affair, lasting for months behind my back. The fallout was messy. I broke up with my ex immediately, left her and all the memories behind. And Mike? He wasn't some random guy caught up in a mistake. He knew exactly what he was doing, knew that my girlfriend was taken, and didn't care. The anger I had for him was intense, but I never really got to confront him properly. I just knew that he played an equal part in the destruction of my relationship. For 2 years, I buried that part of my life, slowly healing, getting back on my feet, and doing my best to leave all that baggage in the past. That's when Kelly came into the picture. Meeting Kelly was like a breath of fresh air. After the mess of my last relationship, she was a ray of light. We clicked instantly, and for the first time in a long while, I felt happy again. She was smart, funny, kind, and we just got each other. We'd been together for 6 months, and everything felt like it was falling into place. She was everything I thought I needed, a new chapter, a clean slate. It was easy being with her, and I started to think that maybe, just maybe, I'd finally moved on from the disaster of my last relationship. Things were great until that company party. Kelly had invited me to her work's annual party, a casual get-together where I could meet her colleagues. I didn't think much of it, just another night to support her and mingle with her work friends. We walked in, hand in hand, and started making the rounds, chatting with her coworkers. I was feeling good, confident, proud to be there with her, until I saw him. Mike. He was standing by the bar, laughing with a group of people. For a split second, I thought I was imagining it. What were the odds? The same guy who helped destroy my last relationship now standing here. In the same room, at my new girlfriend's work event? The recognition was instant. He spotted me too, and for a brief, tense moment, our eyes locked. He looked uncomfortable, maybe a little surprised, but he didn't say anything. Neither did I. The entire time, my mind was racing. What the hell was Mike doing here? It didn't take long before the unease settled into something more sinister in my gut. I needed answers, and I needed them now. When we got back to Kelly's place after the party, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I had to ask her. "Do you know Mike?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm, but the tension was unmistakable. She hesitated for a moment, clearly caught off guard. "Yeah, he works with me," she replied, her voice careful. She could tell something was off. I pressed further, explaining who Mike was, how he was the guy my ex had cheated on me with. I watched her face change, the color draining as she pieced it together. She was shocked, to say the least, but when I asked her directly about her history with him, that's when things took a turn. Kelly admitted that she and Mike had been friends with benefits for a while. Before we ever met, she seemed uncomfortable, and I could tell she was trying to figure out how to soften the blow. But the truth was, it hit me hard. I could feel my chest tighten, my mind racing through all the implications. She had already been with him, and now they worked together. The same guy who had torn my life apart with my ex was now not only in her life but had been intimately involved with her too. She tried to reassure me, telling me that it was all in the past and that she and Mike were nothing now. She promised that she would never do to me what my ex had done. But no matter how much she insisted, the damage was done. The trust I had in her, the trust I had in us, felt tainted. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Kelly wasn't my ex, and I knew that. But the fact that Mike was still a part of her life, that they worked together, that they shared such a close history, it all became too much for me to handle. It felt like a cruel twist of fate. I had finally started to heal, finally found someone who made me happy again, only to have the same person who wrecked my past relationship show up in my new one. Every time I thought about them together, it stirred up old wounds. I didn't want to be the jealous, paranoid boyfriend, but how could I not be? The past was creeping into the present, and it was becoming impossible to separate the two. Kelly didn't understand why I was so upset. She kept telling me that it was over between them, that I had nothing to worry about. But the more she tried to convince me, the more it felt like she was missing the point. It wasn't just about her past with Mike. It was about how that past was now tangled up in my present. How every time she saw him at work, I would be reminded of what he had done to me before. I didn't want to live with that constant reminder. That nagging feeling of betrayal lurking in the background. I started pulling away, emotionally distancing myself from Kelly. She noticed, of course. She could tell something had shifted between us. But I couldn't bring myself to explain it properly. How do you tell someone that their past is destroying your peace of mind? How do you ask someone to cut ties with someone they see every day? Just because that person played a role in your own personal hell? In the end, I couldn't do it. I couldn't get past it. One night, as we sat in her living room, I told her we needed to talk. I could see the worry in her eyes. But I had made up my mind. I told her I needed space. That I couldn't move forward with her knowing what I knew. She looked devastated, tried to reason with me. But I was firm. I couldn't live with the knowledge that Mike, the guy who had been part of my worst betrayal, was still in her life. It didn't matter that they weren't together anymore. It didn't matter that she promised she would never hurt me. The trust was broken, not because of something she did now, but because of what had already happened. As I packed my things and left, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss. I did love Kelly, but this was too much for me. The past had come back to haunt me, and I didn't have the strength to fight it. Maybe in another world, in another timeline, things would have been different. But in this one, I chose to protect myself, even if it meant losing someone I cared about. Walking away from Kelly wasn't easy, but it felt like the only choice I had left. And as I drove home that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that Mike had managed to ruin yet another relationship in my life. This time, though, it wasn't just about him. It was about me, about the scars I carried, and about how I wasn't ready to let them heal.
When my phone buzzed with a text from him late one night, I knew I should have ignored it. It had been a while since we'd spoken, let alone seen each other. But there was something about the way my ex always knew when to reach out. It was like he could sense when I was vulnerable. I knew it wasn't a good idea to answer. Yet my fingers betrayed me. I opened the message. "Hey, I've been thinking about you." Just like that, the flood of memories came rushing back. 7 years we spent together. 7 years of love, heartbreak, fights, and laughter. 7 years of building a life together before it all fell apart. We were each other's first serious relationship. The kind that's meant to last forever, or at least, that's what we thought at the time. We broke up over a year ago. A mutual decision after realizing that we'd grown in different directions. But the feelings didn't just evaporate. And neither did the connection. I'd moved on, or at least I thought I had. Yet seeing his name light up my phone pulled me right back into the confusion I'd tried so hard to leave behind. I responded, telling myself it would just be a brief conversation to see how he was doing. To catch up like old friends do. But I should have known better. One text turned into two. Then into a full conversation that carried on for hours. He told me he missed talking to me. Missed our inside jokes. The way we understood each other. And as much as I tried to keep my guard up, part of me missed him too. It didn't help that I hadn't been in a serious relationship since we broke up. Sure, I dated a few guys here and there, but nothing that came close to what I had with him. So, when he suggested meeting up, just to talk, I caved. We met at a quiet bar a few nights later. Somewhere low-key where we wouldn't run into anyone we knew. The moment I saw him, all the old feelings bubbled to the surface. He looked the same, maybe a little more mature, but still the guy I'd spent so many years with. We fell into easy conversation, reminiscing about the past, laughing at stories we'd told a million times before. It felt comfortable, like slipping on an old sweater you'd forgotten you loved. But as the night wore on, the conversation shifted. He started opening up about how his current relationship wasn't going well. How he didn't feel the same connection with her that he had with me. He said things had been rocky for a while. That he wasn't sure if they were going to last. In that moment, it didn't sound like they were serious. It sounded like they were on the verge of breaking up. I should have stopped it there. I should have walked away when he started talking about how much he missed me. But I didn't. Instead, I let myself get caught up in the nostalgia. In the way he still made me feel. I convinced myself that it wasn't a big deal. That maybe this was the closure we both needed. Before I knew it, we were back at his place. The familiarity of it all, the way he touched me, the way he kissed me, it was like no time had passed at all. For a moment, it felt right, like maybe this was where I was supposed to be. But as soon as it was over, reality came crashing down. He immediately seemed distant, like the weight of what we'd just done hit him all at once. I asked if he was okay. And that's when he dropped the bomb. I have a girlfriend. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Sure, he'd mentioned he was seeing someone, but I didn't realize how serious it was. He never said they were exclusive. Never said they were in a committed relationship. I had no idea he was with someone like that, someone he was supposed to be loyal to. The guilt hit me like a tidal wave. How could I have been so stupid? How could I let myself get caught up in old feelings without considering the consequences? I wanted to blame him for not being honest, for making it seem like they were on the verge of breaking up. But deep down, I knew I was just as much at fault. I should have asked more questions. I should have been smarter. He didn't waste any time blaming me. Though, this is all your fault. He snapped. If you hadn't come back into my life, none of this would have happened. I was speechless. How was this my fault? He was the one who reached out. He was the one who invited me out, who brought me back to his place. But in his mind, I was the reason his relationship was falling apart. I was the reason he'd cheated on his girlfriend. It didn't matter that he made the choice. In his eyes, I was the one to blame. He said he needed time to figure things out, to decide what he was going to do about his girlfriend. I left his apartment feeling like absolute garbage, my mind spinning with guilt and confusion. How had I let this happen? The next few days were hell. He stopped responding to my texts, leaving me in the dark about what was going on. I couldn't stop thinking about his girlfriend, the woman he'd been dating while still holding onto a piece of me. Did she know? Would she ever find out? The more I thought about it, the worse I felt. Finally, he texted me, saying he'd told her everything. She was devastated, obviously, and broke things off immediately. He told me their relationship was over. And once again, he blamed me for ruining it. You're the reason she left me. He said, I never would have cheated if you hadn't come back into my life. The guilt twisted in my stomach even more. Part of me wanted to reach out to his now ex-girlfriend, to apologize for being part of something so terrible. But what good would that do? It wouldn't change anything. It wouldn't fix the damage that had been done. I spent days replaying everything in my head, wondering how I could have been so stupid. I knew he had a girlfriend, even if he downplayed their relationship. I should have walked away the second he started talking about their problems. But I didn't, and now I had to live with the consequences. I tried talking to a few friends about it, but their reactions were mixed. Some said I wasn't at fault, that he was the one in the relationship and he should have been the one to stop it. Others weren't so forgiving, telling me I should have known better, that I had no business getting involved with someone who was already taken. It's been a few weeks since it all went down, and I still feel like shit. I can't stop thinking about his ex-girlfriend, wondering how she's doing, knowing that I played a role in breaking her heart. And as much as I want to blame him for everything, I know I can't. I was a part of it too, whether I want to admit it or not. I haven't spoken to him since that last conversation. He's probably moved on by now, maybe even found someone new. But I'm still here, stuck in this endless loop of guilt and regret, wondering if I'll ever be able to forgive myself for the part one played. I wish I could say I've learned my lesson, that I'll never let something like this happen again. But the truth is, I don't know. When you've been with someone for as long as we were together, it's hard to let go completely. There will always be that part of me that misses him, that wonders what could have been. But I know now that some things are better left in the past, no matter how tempting it may be to revisit them. So, am I the asshole for sleeping with him while he had a girlfriend? Maybe, probably. I didn't mean to ruin his relationship, but I can't pretend I didn't play a part in it. And now, I have to live with that.